Do you have goats you need to get registered with the Miniature Dairy Goat Association, otherwise known as the MDGA? Well, you've come to the right channel. I'll walk you through it. Let's get your goats registered. Hi friends, thanks for stopping by the farm today. Let's jump right into this so we can get your goats registered. You can register a goat with MDGA either by submitting an application online or filling out a paper application and mailing it off. It's simply up to you. Now, I will walk you through both ways, and before we get started, you will need some items. I'm going to list those items in a moment on the screen. Don't panic when you see that list. Not every situation is going to call for every one of those items. These are the items you'll need on hand when you're applying for registration for your goats. Now remember that not everyone will need every single one of these things, and in a moment I'll go through each one and briefly describe what it is, and you can decide if it applies to you. You'll need the registration applications. You will not need these if you're applying online. This is only if you're going to be filling it out on paper. You'll also need the registration certificates for the dam and the sire, or at least access to that information, the MDGA membership application, service memo or lease agreement, bill of sale, MDGA fee schedule, 3 photos of each goat, and your tattoo or microchip information for each goat. Okay, now I know that was probably quite a list, but believe me, when you start to fill out your application, you will be glad that you have these things on hand to reference or look at, or when you're ready to mail off your application, you've got the photographs of your goats. If you try to submit your application without some of these things that MDGA asks for, it will slow down the process potentially. If you look at their website, you will see that processing times as of April 2022 are 4 to 6 weeks, and in some cases 6 to 8 weeks. So you want to do everything you can to make that goat as expeditiously as possible. All right, give me a moment. I'm going to put on my glasses. Oh, that's better. All right, I'm going to go through each one of these items. I will explain what it is and why you need it, and then you can decide if that applies to you. Oh, I also want to mention that I am a dues paying member of the MDGA. However, they're not sponsoring this video. Any views or opinions I express on my channel or in this video are solely my own and not those of the MDGA. You need to supply MDGA with 3 photos of each goat that you are registering. You will need a full-on face, you will need a profile of the head, and you will need a profile of the entire body. Okay, in my opinion, this is by far the hardest item on the list to obtain because baby goats just never seem to strike a pose. So my suggestion would be not to try and get all your photos in one day, because unless you've got just one goat to photograph, it can be quite time consuming and frankly rather frustrating. However, I do have a tip for getting all your photos at one time in one day. You'll want to catch that in my video on kidding season part 3. When I put that video up, be sure to watch it because it will save you a lot of time and frustration. This document is the membership application for MDGA. You do not need to be a member to register a goat or conduct transactions. However, if you think you'll be breeding goats, I advise becoming a member sooner rather than later. However, it can be done simultaneously when registering the goats. There are benefits to being a member. There are reduced fees. You can participate in live and virtual shows, and there is an opportunity to earn milk stars for your goat. Now, the top portion of this form asks for basic information such as your name, address, and telephone number. And you should also put a check next to the box that indicates the type of membership that applies to you. The middle portion is what I want to bring attention to, though. This is where you'll be prompted to choose a herd name and a tattoo. A herd name is attached to the names of any goats you breed and register, and I'll show you an example of that in a moment. A tattoo is a unique set of letters that are tattooed onto the goat's ear for permanent identification. Some people do not use tattoos, though, however, they use microchips. So if you choose to go that route, be sure to keep that information handy when you're registering your goat. Now let's talk about herd names. It can be anything you want, such as your last name, farm name, for example. Try to keep it short, though. This will allow more flexibility with regard to the length of the goat's name. The herd name and the goat's name combined can only be 35 characters, and that includes spaces and special characters such as apostrophes. Now, the herd name will follow the goat throughout its life, even if it's sold and you're no longer the owner. Now, here's an example. Let's say the name of your farm is Top of the Hill. You would probably want your herd name to read Top of the Hills, and that's with an apostrophe. That's 17 characters and will leave 18 characters to play with for the goat's name. Now let's say you want to name your goat Lucky. So the goat's official name will be Top of the Hills Lucky. Here's an actual MDGA registration certificate. Notice that the name of the goat is Lazy Acres Evan Almighty. Lazy Acres is the herd name and Evan Almighty is the goat's name. And even if he were sold and ownership was transferred, his name would still remain Lazy Acres Evan Almighty. When all is said and done and your membership is processed, you should receive a document like this that is a certificate of herd name. Number 1 is the herd name, number 2 is the tattoo letters, and number 3 is the membership number. This document is the fee schedule. It is, as the name implies, a list of fees for the transactions that can be conducted with MDGA. But for the purposes of registering a goat, I've circled the sections in red. Now, the first section here, note that there will be different fees based on the age of the goat as well as the class, such as experimental and grade versus American and purebred. So it's beneficial to get the goat registered as soon as possible at a younger age, as the fee does go up with time. You'll also want to note the member versus non-member fees. If you have decided to become a member and you've chosen a herd name, then indicate that at the top, choosing the membership that applies to you. This is the certificate of registration. You'll need one of these for both the dam and the sire, or at least access to the information that is on these documents. This is going to take care of 90% of the rest of the documentation. Everything you need is right here. You're mainly going to use it as a reference. So it doesn't matter if you're working with the original or the copy. The only instance when you need the original is when you're doing a transfer of ownership, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Keep in mind that if you're working with the original, it may be a different color than the one that's shown here. Now, miniature breeds are achieved between a cross, usually between a Nigerian dwarf and a standard sized breed, but you're still going to need the certificates for both these parents, and they may be coming from a different registry, such as the American Dairy Goat Association. In goat husbandry, not everyone chooses to keep a buck or a herd sire. Some people simply choose to keep a doe, and when it comes time to breed that doe, they will simply take it to a neighboring farm to be bred or wherever they've found a suitable buck. Now, if that situation applies to you, you will need either a service memo or a lease agreement. When do you need one versus the other? If you took your doe to a buck and they had their date, it took 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour for the breeding to occur, but you left with your doe, then you need a service memo. If you took your doe to a buck and she spent the night or several days, then you need a lease agreement. Now, I would suggest having that document printed out, and I will leave a link to those documents in the description below. Have those documents printed out in hand with you so that the owner of the buck can fill in the appropriate information that applies to the buck, and the owner of that buck will need to sign those documents, and you should leave with those documents in hand when you leave with your doe. Otherwise, when it comes time for you to register offspring from that particular pairing, then you will have to either go chase it down or have the owner get that information to you. And basically what it's going to do is put the brakes on your progress on getting your goat registered. So do yourself a favor and have that document in hand, signed with the information when you leave with your doe. Whether you've chosen to tattoo or microchip your goats, you're going to want to have that information on hand when you are filling out the application for registration. The other thing that you will want to be aware of is how your goat measures up to breed standards. This is going to be a combination of physical characteristics and generation. I'll leave a link to the MDGA website that explains this in detail. Okay, now that we've covered all our items that are on the list, decide which ones apply to your situation and gather them all up, because we're going to fill out applications now. We'll do one on paper and we'll do one online. If you're going to be registering your goats online, then you will need to do that in the Chrome browser as per the MDGA website. Otherwise, the information that you input may not transfer. If you're going to be submitting your application by mail, then you need this application for registration. I'll put a link for it in the description below. You can print out as many as you need and fill those out and submit those. Okay, let's get a goat registered. This is the application for registration for MDGA. This is the contact information, email, phone number, mailing address. This first section here asks for information about the parents of the goat that is being registered. So first it asks for the sire's information. Where are you going to get this information from for the parents? It's going to be from the registration certificates that you have for the dam and the sire, that is the mother and the father. So with regards to the father, this little goat's father is Lazy Acres Evan Almighty, and it will ask for his registration number and his generation. So he is generation 6. So here we go. Lazy Acres, Evan Almighty, generation 6, and his registration number. It will ask who the owner of that parent was or is, and that is myself and my husband. It will ask if this animal was leased. Remember, we talked about does, and some people only keep does and they will take their does to be bred by a buck. So if that was the case and we either leased an animal or did a drive-away breeding, then we would need these documents here, which is the service memo or the lease agreement. And if you have a look at either one of these documents, you'll see that it asks for quite a bit of information. It will ask for the buck's name. It will ask for his tattoo. It will ask for his parentage and their registration numbers. And it will ask who the animal was leased to. So if I had to lease a buck, then it would have been leased to me. And this is my MDGA number, my general information. And then the person who actually owned the goat that I had to breed my buck, or excuse me, that I had to breed my doe to, that person's name would go here, their general information, their MDGA number, and they would have to sign that. And as for a service memo, it asks for a little bit less information, but the doe that was being bred, her registration number, the owner of the doe, the buck that the doe was bred to, his registration number, date of service, and the signature of the owner of the buck at the time of service. So we talked earlier about which one of these documents versus the other that you would need if you did not own the buck. And that is a lot of information to have to chase down if you're in this registration process and you don't have it. That's why you want to have it. When you breed your doe and you leave, make sure you have that in hand. All right, moving on to the dam or the mother. Same thing. Here is the dam's name, Mavium Titania, her registration number, and her generation. And that goes here, the dam, her name, her generation, and her registration number. Now remember when I spoke earlier about a herd name and the goat's name and how it stays with the goat throughout its lifetime? Well, these herd names, Lazy Mavium Titania and Lazy Acres, well, those are not my herd names. Even though I own the goats, they're not my herd names, but they stay with the goat throughout its life. Now, back to the application. Owner of dam at time of breeding. Myself and my husband, we own the dam at the time of breeding. We did not lease that animal, so the answer is no here. Was this breeding result of an AI breeding? AI means artificial insemination. No, it was not. Now, on to the goat that we're registering. She needs her name, and we have 35 characters here. My herd name, which is Friendly Feathers, that's with an apostrophe at the end. I won't go into the English lesson as to why it's on the end, but that's where it needs to be in my instance. And the goat's name is Doja Goat. So her official name is Friendly Feathers Doja Goat. Notice that I did not use all the letters or spaces that I was allotted for characters. That's because my herd name, I tried to keep as short as possible. I did not name it completely after my farm, which would have been Friendly Feathers Farm. That would have left me much less room for the length of the goat's name should I have chosen a larger one. All right, breed. You will be putting the breed of goat that you're registering here. My breed of goat that I am registering is a Mini Nubian. However, MDGA also registers Mini Sanans, Nigerian Dwarfs, Mini La Manchas. Whatever your breed is, you put it here. The variety, class, or category it falls into will be grade, experimental, American, or purebred. and we spoke about that earlier. Mine falls into the classification of American. This animal conforms to breed standards. Yes, it does, or yes, she does. Her date of birth, her sex, female, number in birth. This means how many kids total did this did the parent, the doe of this particular goat that we're registering, how many total in the litter? So the Doja goat's mother had 3 kids, 2 males and 1 female. We are registering the female Doja goat. And now we move on to tattoo or microchip information. I chose to tattoo my goat, so for many Nubians, they are tattooed on the ear. Some goats are tattooed on the tail, and if that is where your particular breed gets tattooed, then you would choose this one. My tattoo number goes in the right ear, and the other information goes in the left ear. So my right ear, my tattoo information is assigned to me by MDGA, and that is there. This letter or this information here for the left ear, this P is for the year of 2022. Every year, MDGA changes the letter of the year. So you would want to check the MDGA website to find out what the letter of the year is. So if you're watching this video in another year other than 2022, the tattoo letter for the year may have changed. So be sure to check that. This next number is a number of my choosing. But it needs to be individual to each goat. So if I were registering another goat, it would be P2 or P3 or P4. But I would not want to duplicate this one again. It's only for one goat. So this particular goat is P1. And we will move on to this section here. It asks, the animal was born on the property of, and if it was born on your property, then you can list your name here. So I put Sheila and Stephen. This will help determine what tattoo the animal should have. Sometimes there's some disagreement or discrepancy about that, and the breeders and MDGA have to sort that out. So in my case, it was born on my property, so there's no discrepancy there. Now you want to indicate if the animal is disbutted, polled, if it has horns, or skers. If an animal has been disbutted, that means that the tissue that forms horns has been removed or cauterized, so they will not grow horns. This is the case with the goat that we're registering. Polled means that the goat was naturally born without horns. It is naturally hornless. And horns means that you chose not to remove the horns, that you are going to let the horns grow. So the goat has horns. Skers. Skers are when a goat is disbutted, but sometimes some of the material is missed or it's left, and the goat will develop like partial horns or fragments of horns. That is referred to as skers. You will want to indicate what kind of ears your breed of goat has. I have many Nubians, so many Nubians can have pendulous ears. Sometimes they have a 3/4 drop, a 2/3 drop, or sometimes airplane ears. My goat that I'm registering has pendulous ears. If you have another breed of goat, these other terms may apply: elf, gopher, or erect. Now, here you're going to want to describe your goat. Do the best that you can. MDGA will also look at the pictures that you send along with this application, and when you get your application back, there will be a description of the goat on there. So you can see here on this application, or on this registration, that the description of this parent goat is brown with white spots on black and poll, frosted ears and muzzle, mini moon spots. All right, so for the description of Doja goat, I said that she has a marbled coat. She's white and brown. She has a little bit of black. One of her ears is brown and one is white. And moving on to this section, if you sell one of your kids or your goat and you want the registration, the certificate, that's this, if you want it mailed directly to the party that bought the goat, you can do that. You can say sold to, and you will put their general information. If they happen to be an MDGA member, you can put that here if you know the information, the date you sold it, and here you have the option to send the registration to the new owner or not, yes or no. And moving on to the end, you will sign this application, print your name, put your general information here, and your MDGA membership number if you have one. And again, you do not have to be a member to conduct transactions or even to register a goat. If you don't have an MDGA number, you can leave it blank or just put zeros. You will then mail your payment and application along with your pictures to MDGA. Remember, you will need three photos of each goat. You need a full side of the body, you need a head-on picture of the face, and a profile of the head. So I suppose if you want to, you could go down to the local pharmacy and print out the pictures that you took and mail them with this application. But I feel that it's much easier to do this right here. Put a note with the paperwork stating that the pictures are being emailed. So you will then email your pictures of the goats to this email address here. And you will include a check payable to MDGA because they do not accept cash. Now, here is the fee schedule so that you can keep a tally of the transactions that you're doing. For myself, I renew my membership yearly, and I usually do it when I register my goats. So I choose the registration I choose the membership that applies to me, and I am registering an American doe, and she is less than 1 year old, and you will want to also note the member versus non-member fees, so $8. Also keep in mind that the older the goat is, as time goes by, the fees will vary. So pay attention to which one of these you're choosing. You can write your membership information here if you are a member. If not, disregard. Just put your name, address, and your contact information. And you are ready to put this in the mail and have a goat registered. This is the application for registration for MDGA. This is the online version, and we will fill this out together. Starting at the top, new goat registration. You have 3 options. I am the breeder and am registering this animal for the first time. I purchased this animal from a breeder and am registering it. I am registering a goat that is registered with another registry. For today's purposes, I am choosing this one because I am a breeder and I'm registering an animal for the first time. When you choose these other options, I purchased this animal from a breeder and am registering it, then that breeder would have filled out the application, the paper application, and it would have been scanned and uploaded here where it asks for the original application. The third option is I am registering a goat that is registered with another registry. So perhaps, let's say you have a Nigerian dwarf and you want it to have dual registry. Maybe right now it's registered with the miniature goat registry, otherwise known as TMGR. Well, you would need to scan that certificate of registration from the other registry, save it as a file, and upload it here. So we will go back to today's option. So just as on the paper application, the parents for the goat that is being registered, their information has to be filled in. So I've already put in Lazy Acres, which is the herd name of my buck, and there is a drop-down menu with names to choose from. So when I choose Evan Almighty, this information is automatically populated. Now the next section wants to know, was the sire leased? That's asking, did I own him or not? So I did not lease him because I owned him. So the answer is no. However, if the answer is yes, then more information needs to be put in. The current owner of the sire, and remember that lease agreement or service memo, well, that needs to be scanned and uploaded here. All right, moving on to the dam's information. So again, if you just type in the herd name, then options should come up in the drop-down menu, and it is automatically populated. All right, did you purchase the dam bred? That means, was she pregnant when I purchased her? No. Was the dam leased? Not owned by you. I did not lease her, I own her, so the answer is no. But again, if she was leased, then MDGA requests more information, the current owner of the dam, and again, that service memo or lease agreement would have to be uploaded. Now, the goat that we're registering, the new goat's information, here we are at that spot where 35 characters are allotted. That is the herd name and the goat's name. So my herd name is Friendly Feathers, and there is an apostrophe at the end of that. I won't go into the English lesson as to why that is, but in my situation, it's at the end. All right, and the name of the goat, I'm going to name her Doja Goat. So Friendly Feathers, Doja Goat. This name will follow her throughout her life, no matter who happens to be her owner. And just as on the paper application, 35 characters are allotted, including spaces and special characters. Now it wants to know the breed of my goat. I have a mini Nubian. However, other goats can be registered with MDGA. Mini Alpines, mini La Manchas, mini Sanins, Nigerian dwarfs. So just choose your breed. Variety. You will have to determine what the variety of your goat is, whether it's a American, experimental, grade, or purebred. I do believe MDGA has closed the books on grade, but you may select from these other items. And my goat falls into the American category. All right, sex. She is female, but you also have the option, of course, of male or wether. A wether is a neutered male goat. Now, I'm not sure why someone would want to register a wether because it won't be producing any offspring, but there you have it. You have the option of registering a wether if you'd like. Date of birth. This particular goat was born March 16th. And number in birth. There were 3 goats in that particular litter. And there were 2 males. And there was 1 female, which is the goat that we're registering right now. Select a tattoo location. Goats can be tattooed on their ears, on the web of their tails, or the center of their tails. For my particular breed, mini Nubians, they are tattooed on the ears. Now, right and left tattoos. In the right ear goes my herd name, the tattoo letters that correspond to my herd name, and these are my letters. In the left ear goes the year, and MDGA has a letter for each year. So for 2022, this year's letter is P. If you are watching this video and it is no longer 2022, go to the MDGA website and find out what the letter of the year is. The second character is a number that I assign specifically to this goat that I am registering. So it can be 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. So what's tattooed on the left ear is P1. No other goat should be tattooed P1 for this year. Any other goat can be P2, P3, P4, P01, P02, whatever. But only this goat should have P1. If you chose not to tattoo your goat, then you will have microchipped it. So if you microchipped it, you can say yes, and you will input the microchip information. But I did not microchip, so we check no. Horn type. When it comes to horns, you have the option of disbudded, horns, polled, or skers. A goat that has been disbudded has had the tissue that forms horns cauterized or otherwise removed, and it will not grow horns. So you will check disbudded. If you are going to allow your goat to grow horns, then you check horns. If your goat is polled, that means it naturally has no horns. If your goat has skers, well, skers are from being disbudded. However, some of the tissue was left behind or not completely removed, and this causes the goat to grow partial horns or like a little fragment of a horn, and this is referred to as skurs. However, my goat is disbudded. Okay, ear type. What type of ears does your goat have? My goat has pendulous ears. However, many Nubians can have airplane ears, three-quarter drop ears, or any of these other types. Other breeds have elf ears, erect, or gopher. You need to know what kind of ears your goat has. Goat description. You can leave this blank if you want MDGA to fill in a description based on the pictures that you send them of the goat that's being registered, or you can describe it to the best of your ability, and that description can go on the registration certificate. I'm describing this goat as having a marbled coat that is brown and white. She also has one brown ear, and she has one white ear. Okay. Here is where you will want to upload the 3 photos that MDGA requires of your goat. That is the head on face, a profile of the head, and a profile of the entire body. Any other files that you want to include, you can upload here. Now, breeder owner information is simple. Where was the goat born? On whose property? So it was born on my property, so I will put my name. Breeder name and address. Whatever applies to you, put that in here. Copy breeder info to current owner. So if I type yes, I'm going to get a copy of, if I type no, then nothing happens. But let's say that I have sold this goat and I would like the certificate of registration to go straight to that new owner. I can put that information here. So the buyer can put their name here, or you can put their name here, their last name, city, state, and the date when the goat was sold. Let's say it was sold today, April 30th. All right. Now the applicant name and MDGA number. So my name goes here because I am the one applying for the registration. My MDGA number. If you are not a member, that's fine. You don't have to be a member to register a goat with MDGA, but if you are, put your member number here, your information, email and telephone number, and who the certificate should be mailed to. Any additional information that you want to pass on to MDGA, you can put that in this box. When you are satisfied with the information that you've put in the application, submit it for approval. When you're ready to make a payment, you can do one of 2 things. You can click on this link here. It will take you to PayPal. If you have a fee schedule, you can use that to tally up the fees that you will be paying, and then you go over to PayPal and pay those fees. Or you can use that fee schedule, tally up what you owe, and you can mail a check to MDGA. Note that when you're filling out this application, you should be in a Chrome browser. Otherwise, the information that you input may not transfer well. Well, folks, thanks for joining me at the farm today. I hope you found this information helpful. If you have any special situation or circumstances regarding the registration of your goats, I recommend calling the MDGA. They are the nicest, most knowledgeable, helpful people. You may not get them when you call right away, but leave a message and they will call you back. You always talk to a live person. Once again, if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up so that it can spread to others and help them register their goats as well. Thanks for stopping by Friendly Feathers Farm.